The moment the little boy raised his trembling finger and pointed at the police officer, the entire courtroom froze, and what came next would shatter every expectation. He sat on the witness stand, a small figure perched above polished wood, clutching a scribbled drawing in one hand. All eyes fixed on him. The judge leaned forward. The prosecutor cleared his throat. The defense attorney glanced at the police officer across the room. A mere barely 7 years old. Lashes shadowing wide eyes, took a breath and pointed. From the moment the hearing began, the mood had been electric. Spectators whispered. Reporters scribbled furiously. The case, a controversial stop and frisk incident, had sparked protests. A single child witness, Amir Ahmed, was now central. His father alleged brutal treatment by an officer. Though hesitant to expose a child to such a spectacle, the court summoned him. Sweating, his knee jittering, Amir stated his name and age in a small voice. Silence followed. Then he pointed at the officer. Gasps erupted. The judge froze. Cameras clicked. Amir's finger remained steady. The officer paled. The judge banged the gavel for order, but the gesture hung heavy in the air. Why had the boy pointed? What would he say? The prosecutor approached. Amir, please tell the court what happened that day. Amir's lip trembled. He glanced at his father, then the officer. In halting words, he described walking home from school, laughing with his dad. A police car screeched to a stop. A heavy-set officer jumped out, shouting, flashlight blinding. Amir felt fear not for himself, but for his father. The officer yanked his father's arm, twisted it, slammed him against the patrol car. Blue lights spun, a crowd gathered. Amir's father tried to explain there was no wrongdoing. The officer shouted louder, slapped him. Tears filled Amir's eyes. He ran forward, screaming, "Stop hurting my dad." That finger then and now became the trial's breaking point. You called him a liar, Amir said through trembling words. You slammed him? But I know my dad tells the truth. The courtroom exhaled collectively. Officials leaned in. The judge softened his expression, calling for calm. The defense attorney rose, asking if Amir recognized the officer. Amir nodded and pointed again, whispering, "That's him." His voice was low but firm. The defense questioned his recollection, distances, angles, his young age. Could he really know what he saw? The prosecutor objected, presenting Amir's drawing, a simple sketch of the corner. The car, his father pinned. The judge studied it in silence. Amir's father testified next. Voice steady, but choked. He described the unlawful stop. The sudden aggression, the shoulder pain. He praised Amir's courage. Journalists scribbled. The officer shifted uncomfortably as cross-examination. Tried to discredit father and son. But Amir's answers were clear, simple, unwavering. When asked if he'd watched videos, he shook his head. I told what I saw with my own eyes. That pointing finger guided every word thereafter. Closing arguments followed. The prosecutor spoke of justice, trust, and the courage of a child forced into adult truth. The defense argued misidentification, procedural mistakes, claiming the boy was manipulated. The judge's face remained unreadable. That night, he would carry the image of the pointing finger. The drawing, the bruises, the child's testimony. The next morning, the courtroom was packed. Protesters, civil rights advocates, and journalists filled the gallery. Amir sat beside his father, hand in hand. The officer waited, expression guarded. The judge entered. I have reached a decision. Time slowed. Amir squeezed his father's hand. The verdict. The officer was guilty of using excessive force and misconduct. His credentials would be reviewed. Amir's father's account was upheld. Muted sobs and sighs filled the room. Amir's father bowed his head. Amir looked upward, eyes wet but proud. Outside, crowds cheered softly. News cameras flashed. Protesters raised posters with Amir's words, asterisk, "Stop hurting my dad." The police department promised new training. Community groups pledged support. Lawyers approached about a civil suit. The case became a landmark. Across the city, people repeated Amir's gesture. saying, "That's where it went wrong." Media replayed his drawing, his words. His voice became a symbol. The smallest voice can expose truth, even when power shields itself. Months later, Amir sat with his father in their modest living room, speaking to a documentary filmmaker. Calmer now, he said he didn't feel brave. He just couldn't stay quiet. Asked if he remembered pointing at the officer. He nodded. I felt him hurting my dad. I didn't want him to keep hurting him. That's why I said stop. What did he hope others learned? Amir looked into the camera. Kids know things too. Justice is for everyone. His words, simple, pure, drifted into the world. Replayed online, whispered in classrooms. Discussed at dinner tables. The pointing finger remained a lasting symbol. Truth's courage.